This week on Inevitable,
we stage an alien invasion.
everybody who interacts with the media dies.
And we fake our own deaths to solve a crime.
Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Inevitable, that podcast where there's absolutely no payoff for anything set up over the course of the series, because this week we watched Little Green Men and Other Martians.
Written by who else but Chris Boucher.
Directed by Graham Harper.
And aired on August 31st, 1987.
I don't know, could have been written by John Colley.
I don't think Chris, the mastermind behind Star Cops, would have allowed anyone else to touch his masterpiece known as Little Green Men and Other Martians. And if you're detecting a hint of sarcasm in my voice, it's because there's, maybe more than a hint, and maybe your sarcasm detectors are not functioning up to the best of their abilities, and you're only detecting that little hint. Because this was not a strong finale to this otherwise really good show at all.
It was a pretty weak finale, but then again, it wasn't meant to be the finale, so
I thought this was meant to be the finale, but last week's episode was the one that got shuffled around. Or am I getting that wrong? I thought this one was always meant to be the finale.
I don't know. There was a script for a 10th episode written.
I know, and I think that one was canned, and this one was moved to be episode 9. I think this was always meant to be the last one. I'm pretty sure that's correct. I'll correct it in the show notes if it's not. But I mean, the more I say that...
just makes it more disappointing.
Yeah, the more I say that, the more disappointing it is, so maybe I'm wrong. Because, I don't know, like...
My first note is bummer that this is the last time we'll hear this garbage song.
Well, my first note is Reach Across the Stars one final time. I love this song, and I'm going to listen to it after this.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am. At some point in my life, I'm going to listen to this song again.
I don't believe it. I do not believe it.
It's not like a hard thing to... It's not like I'm saying like at some point in my life I'm going to, become president or like accomplish great things. I'm literally just going to listen to a song again.
We'll see.
Pretty damn easy to do.
We'll see. We'll see.
My second note here for this episode is something tells me this is just going to be another episode and not really a finale.
You were right. You were right.
Gosh.
In fact, this is like even less of an episode because David is completely MIA on Earth West. Anna Shun basically is also non-existent. She has like one scene.
And the plan, don't even get me started. I hate that I'm being, and that we're going to be really negative for this whole thing, but like the plan, the evil scheme in this episode was so lame.
I actually didn't think this episode was bad. I just thought it was just kind of,
Yeah, maybe the fact that it's the last episode and that it doesn't like do anything with the interesting concepts and character arcs set up over the season makes it seem even worse. I don't know. But let's just do some sort of behind-the-scenes stuff before we jump into the plot. Eric Ray Evans, who plays Theroux, is not in this episode at all.
He had measles, apparently.
Yeah.
Vaccinate your kids.
I heard he had chickenpox from another site. I think aren't measles and chickenpox like the same thing or something?
I don't think so.
No, I don't know.
Chickenpox vaccine wasn't developed till the late 90s.
Yeah, Wikipedia, I think, said he had chickenpox. Anorak Zone says he has measles. But he was, sick in some way.
He had a virulent disease.
He would actually end up dying, I think maybe about 7 or 8 years after this. He died in like the mid to late 90s.
Damn.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
So Kenzie in this episode is a very prominent character. You could even say that this is a Kenzie episode. All of her backstory and characterization was originally Theroux's.
Yeah, when she said she was a student radical, I was like, hang on, that was David, though.
Yeah, when she first said that, I was like, wow, the audacity that Chris Boucher had to give two characters the exact same backstory. Now I know why, of course, but yeah. Apparently there's a novelization of this episode written by Boucher, and apparently that is closer to the original vision of what this episode would be, with Theroux in it. I'm guessing with Anna Shun and even fewer scenes because Chris Boucher has gone on record saying that he actually didn't create Anna Shun and didn't know what to do with her, which is
all
why
John Colley.
yeah, which explains why she's not a big part of the episode.
Just like how what's his name was like, I didn't know what to do with the character of Alex Kravenko, so he basically didn't do anything.
That was Colley, wasn't it?
Was it?
Well, there were only 2 writers for the show. Or no, I think that one was actually Chris Boucher because
wasn't there one episode not written by either of the two? I thought there was.
Oh yeah, it was episode 5, I think.
Yeah.
It was some other writer. Yeah, the episode where Kravenko was introduced. Anna Shun, I'll just say this now because this is somewhat behind the scenes, but she seems totally different. She and Divas actually seem totally different in character.
Divas is back to his good old not sex-craving, sex-addicted self.
No, well, and I think we can extend that to larger like statement that Divas is not like the bumbling like fool and like butt of everyone's joke that he was for John Colley's episodes. He's more the sinister Divas that we got to know and love ? In the good old days, the Chris Boucher era.
The good old days.
Good old days of a month and a half ago. Anna Shun, though, it seems as if her acting is actually totally different as well. Her accent seems more thick, and it seems like Sayo Inaba is having trouble doing that. I haven't watched any interviews with Sayo Inaba, so I'm not certain whether her accent is put on or not. But I would guess that her accent in this episode is because it seems like a lot more thick than it had been previously.
It does. It does. It's... But again, she only appears for like 2 scenes.
Yeah,
so.
which just goes to show you, or just attest to like the Rocky behind the scenes stuff that was going on. And not Rocky as in like the good, Rocky movies.
Yeah.
But Rocky is in like, uncalm seas behind the scenes of Star Cops.
Well, so we see Mars, and we see them, they find something on Mars.
Yeah, this is a little odd. This was a little odd to me that they extended, in the final episode of Star Cops, they extended out to, like, Mars. This is, very near future, and I didn't think we would get, like, people on Mars.
Yeah, I didn't expect that either, actually. I was extremely surprised, actually, when it opened up and it was like, we're on Mars now, and I'm like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, so there's a rover on Mars. Unfortunately, we don't get to see it from the front, so we don't know, what emoticon it's portraying. But some guy steps out of the rover and uncovers something big.
We don't know what it is yet.
No.
But we do cut to Kenzie seeing this guy, Daniel, who's a reporter, and she's like, you're a dick, Daniel. He's like, I know, but I'm a good reporter. And Kenzie's like, sure you are. Divas is like inspecting his bags because I guess Star Cops doubles as customs enforcement on the moon.
Yeah, because apparently the people who are going through, Moon TSA essentially is not like doing their jobs whatsoever.
Moon TSA. Yeah, they have a big smuggling problem apparently.
Yeah. Half their employees are like part of this smuggling ring.
Damn. Moonbase is like the hub of crime, like in the human, I guess, like empire or species.
So yeah, this is Daniel Larwood, and we find out here, this is where we get like the sort of Thru's backstory thrust onto Kenzie, because Daniel Larwood is Kenzie's former teacher, and he was also, correct me if I'm wrong here, but what I got out of this was he wasn't happy with how radical Kenzie was, not in the sense that she was too radical, but in the sense that she wasn't radical enough.
I don't really know what I pulled out of this scene. It was odd.
Yeah, and I think now that you kind of say that would be a good time to mention, like, was this episode really hard to watch for you?
Yes.
Like, this was... I don't know.
I had extreme difficulty following this episode.
Yeah, I got the general outline, but, like, most of the scenes, I was like, okay, why are they doing this? Like, how does this contribute to like what's going on in this episode?
Right.
Type thing. Yeah. And I think this episode also differs from most Star Cops episodes in that the crime is not committed at the beginning or prior to the episode. It's committed like over the course of the episode.
Yeah.
So kind of similar to last week. And again, I think that was the thing we disliked last week as well. And they did it again.
It's not like they would know it was bad. They filmed the last episode like like a week before they filmed this one.
Yeah.
Well, so they actually go to customs and they find this weird kind of like idol thing. The customs guy's like completely unconcerned with this, and Nathan's like, "This is probably a big thing." Or Diva, sorry, is like, "This is probably a big thing," and the guy's like, "Yeah, whatever. Found it just in this box right here."
He's like, yeah, you know what's bigger? How we're about to go get busted for drugs.
And Diva's is like, "What?"
Meanwhile, Kravchenko is talking to Nathan, and Kravchenko has invited another guest on the moon base.
Why he keeps doing this, I don't know.
It never ends well for him.
Yeah, like Wolfheart was sabotaging the base. The psychiatrist slept with her patient,
And didn't really do
and
her job.
Yeah. So like, but Philpott's supposed to be better, I guess.
The person he's called in this week is a man named Andrew Philpott, a museum curator from Southern California. Represent? No.
This is who you want representing Southern California.
He's British, though.
Yeah. Oh. Maybe the UK took America back over.
2027, I'm ready. There are a fair amount of British people here, actually.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Yeah. Nathan's like, "I'm not gonna cover up anything shady for you this time, Alex. Like, it's on you."
Yeah, because doesn't Nathan mention, like, hey, like, we need to investigate Daniel Larwood? And Kravchenko's like, all right, do that, but make sure you also... I don't know, what does he even say here?
I don't know.
Oh, Kravchenko actually tells Nathan to investigate Larwood because of his sketchy past as a journalist.
Mm-hmm. And then we see, like, somebody dies.
And yeah, so some guy dies in sort of the corridors, and his last words are I-D-D-D-D-D. You don't know what he's about to say. But Larwood is there, and it seems as if Larwood is about to like do a drug deal with this guy. Maybe that was just the impression I got, but...
Well, Larwood's being fed information by the people of Moonbase in the shadiest way possible because this lady comes up to him for an autograph, and you're like, why would you ever get an autograph from a journalist?
She says she's a fan of his work, but when he signs the autograph, the slip of paper that she handed him has some like insider details about Moonbase or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, wouldn't be a silly Star Cops episode without like a calculator being used for some piece of tech, because at this table in the mess hall or whatever that, you know, Nathan and Larwood are sitting down at, you know, Nathan flips over the little binder or whatever, and there's a recorder there. Larwood has been recording the conversation, but again, it's just a calculator. They stepped it up to a scientific calculator this time, but,
wow,
you know, really just getting that Texas Instruments product placement.
Wow. They investigate Daniel, and he's like, I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And they're like, right, did you touch the body? And he's like, no. They're like, so why is his wallet missing? He's like, okay, I touched the body. They're like, wow, wow.
They sort of give him a hard time. They rough him up. They're like, if you're hiding anything, Larwood, we're going to find it. Meanwhile, Philpott, the museum curator, has shown up on Moonbase. And he's one of two pretty bad actors in this story.
He was all right. I didn't notice anything like noticeably bad about him.
He wasn't up to par. He wasn't up to par character-wise either, because really up until the big reveal at the end, he's just, I don't know, like he just doesn't do anything. He's just there so that, yeah, he's just there. That's just it.
He's meeting with this reporter lady, this other reporter, Susan
Caxton.
Caxton.
Yeah, and the whole the drive behind the museum curator and the reporter is that they're investigating the thing that was uncovered on Mars, which was the little idol thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that entire plot thread was not delved into enough whatsoever.
Hey man, I don't really know how they were involved in this whole scheme.
I mean, I get the scheme. At the end of this, I get what's going on. But it's such a lame plan. Like, it's such an out there, like, really? This was your plan? Like, a 5-year-old could have come up with a better plan.
So someone else dies, the other pilot. So it turns out we find out these are the pilots
Right, because
of a ship.
Yeah, Shuttle 17 launches, and I think they're just carrying cargo to Earth. But she crashes and dies.
Yeah.
So that's when Nathan goes to investigate the company that launches the shuttles, which I guess is privately owned and just operating off moon base.
Looks like he goes to like the moon air traffic control room.
Pretty much, yeah. It's just mayhem, and he's talking to this woman who has a lot to say, but not much of it is of substance. She supplies the information that the person who crashed the shuttle had no records of being on Moonbase and was actually living in the temporary quarters, but that she was a licensed pilot, which prompts Nathan to go investigate the temporary housing quarters of Moonbase, and he finds that her apartment has been just ransacked.
He's like, that's kind of weird if she died in an accident.
Right.
And then the other pilot dies in a completely unrelated, separate accident. And Daniel's like just around the corner. So Nathan and Kenzie think this is pretty freaking weird.
Yeah, this was actually the scene we alluded to before. So we kind of mentioned that out of order, unfortunately. But that actually happens here. Meanwhile, Anna finds some drugs.
Oh, yeah, this whole subplot.
So Anna finding these drugs prompts Davis to uncover the drug smuggling operation that's been going on in the shipping bay. And his response to this is just to take the guys who have been running this operation out into the middle of nowhere and just dump them there.
Yeah, Nathan's like, oh yeah, you should, faulty backpack, if you know what I'm saying, Davis.
An instinct for murder, if you know what I'm saying.
And Davis is like, I know what you're saying. I wonder if my prisoners who are listening to this call know what you're saying. Do you guys know what he's saying? And they're like, you can't do that. And Davis is like, I think we can, Nathan, right? And Nathan's like, I think we can.
So they do, for all intents and purposes, as far as we as the audience know, they do.
Well, they don't buy it at first, but then Davis calls Anna to really drive the point home. He's like, hey, Anna, we're going to take a little walk, if you know what I mean. And if you're nearby, don't pick them up, if you know what I mean. And she's like, oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Hey, Anna, we're going to murder some criminals, if you know what I mean. So don't save their lives.
This is really weird. These people don't come back in the rest of the episode, right? I'm not just making that up.
No, they don't. And that's why, we pretty much are left with the belief that they just kill these people. Off the radar, don't go through the legal processes whatsoever. Just bring them out and essentially murder them.
Wow.
Kind of like what they do in the U.S. if they, find a little bit of weed on you in states where it's illegal.
Kenzie apparently took, art history or something in college, so she knows that this is a pre-Columbian idol, and Nathan's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I made a note here that the music is pretty whack, but I don't know what that means.
It's just your typical Tony Visconti /
Mark Hayward.
Mark Hayward?
Something else Hayward.
Justin Hayward, yeah.
Sorry, I know a guy named Mark Hayward.
Yeah, it's pretty whack. It's pretty whack.
So, my next note of note is that the pilot had a picture of the Martian, and they just refer to it as the Martian.
Yeah, and that's the thing also of like this entire idol subplot, I think could have, not subplot, it's actually the A plot, if you want to call it that, could have been more clear because it's both called like, it's called like the idol, it's called the Martian.
Yeah, they just
And
start calling it the Martian halfway through the episode, and I was like, did I miss something?
yeah, you wouldn't generally call an artifact like the Martian, right? You would generally refer to, or you generally use that term for like a living being on
Mm-hmm.
Mars, right? Like the book The Martian, where the guy's stranded on Mars, or, you know, if life is uncovered on Mars, you might refer to them as Martians or whatever.
Right. But they're all looking for
No,
the
yeah,
Martian.
another sort of odd decision here.
Philpott wants the Martian. Susan wants the Martian. Daniel wants the Martian. Kenzie wants the Martian. And then all of a sudden, Nathan is just like, I'm leaving.
Well, he mentioned this once at the beginning of the episode, so it wasn't out of nowhere. According to the Anorak Zone, his leave of absence or just his stay on Mars is going to be for 2 years, which I didn't get from the episode. I only got
Yeah.
that from
What?
Anorak Zone.
Why was he even going to Mars?
Again, this is according to Anorak Zone, which I read in detail because there was a lot that didn't add up to me about this. Apparently, he was going to be doing StarCop duties on Mars.
What? What?
Well, here, let me just pull up Anorak Zone.
I didn't get this out of the episode at all. At all. I thought he was just like they were forcing him out because he like bungled this like drug dealer thing, and they like killed these guys, and they were like, Nathan, you're out.
No, he definitely like. I did get from the episode that he was going to like be doing some work on Mars, but here's what Anorak Zone has to say about this. Nathan is preparing to leave for Mars duty for roughly a 2-year period. Yeah. Oh, Nathan. Here's something they also have, which I completely missed. Nathan also claims he is subscribed to several drug rehabilitation centers, which is probably a flippant remark, but it does seem a very strange thing to say. So yeah, all they have to say is that he's going to be gone to Mars for a 2-year period.
That's a weird choice by Chris Boucher to make.
I mean, you can maybe imagine like a second season of Star Cops where they expand off the moon and maybe do more on Mars and stuff. But again, until this episode, I didn't even know that we were on Mars.
Yeah, I didn't even know Mars was a factor.
So yeah, he's about to board the ship to Mars. It's called the Lucifer 1. But you know, as with Shuttle 17, it just lifts off and explodes. And we cut to
So
a
Nathan's
scene.
dead.
Yeah, we cut to a scene of just Kenzie and Davis and Anna looking totally distraught.
Watching a news report.
Right.
So Kenzie decides to confront Alex. She's like, the final case Nathan wanted solved was this whole Martian business. So you're going to tell me what's up with this Martian because I know you know because you've been helping Philpott. And he's like, all right, I do know. It's hidden in this abandoned freighter. Because the other thing is that the pilots who died in the accidents were allegedly still en route from Mars. And so Nathan put together that they must have left on an earlier freighter than the one that they're allegedly on.
Right, which is why Moonbase also had no record of them being there.
So Alex is like, all right, I'll take you to the Martian. And as they're driving out over the plains, they see this downed freighter where the Martian supposedly is just blow up.
Yeah.
Just detonates. Kaboom.
So there goes the evidence. But as it turns out, Nathan's not actually dead.
Yeah.
Kenzie decides, I think, to go watch over a ship or a shuttle overnight, I think it is, because they're still suspicious of the shuttle company.
And
I think
of Daniel.
is what it is. And of Daniel. So she's awakened in the middle of the night by presumably the criminal, who turns out to be Philpott.
And then Nathan shows up, and then Daniel also shows up
I'm not misremembering the sequence of events that led us here, am I?
No.
It was just Kenzie deciding to
Yeah.
go watch over,
Yeah.
and then okay,
Uh-huh.
alrighty. Yeah, Nathan's not dead.
And then it turns out they're looking for this picture of the Martian, which is like the only evidence that it exists now. And turns out it's like hidden in the second ID because one of the pilots, the lady pilot who died in the crash, when Anna Shun investigated the crash, she found 2 IDs. Turns out the other pilot who died was saying ID, not I don't, or I'm dying or something. And Nathan uses tactical box alarm to attack Philpott. Kenzie says something like, Nathan, what the hell is happening? And I just said, same, Kenzie, same.
The choreography for this action scene was probably not very well thought out or very good because there were a lot of quick like jumps and wacky like off the wall cinematography to kind of hide what's going on, and it just looks very messy. Kind of reminded me of that scene at the end of the Neverending Story 3 where everyone's screaming and there's just a lot of wacky cuts, and it's just not, it wasn't a good time. It wasn't a good time. The music just cuts out halfway through the scene.
Damn, we should watch that again.
You say yes to that, but no to the audio version of Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve for Doctor Who.
Yeah, because that has at least some entertainment value.
Anyway, this is the end. We've reached the end of Star Cops. They reveal the final scheme of the show, which is the most lame and like 12-year-old came up with this scheme of the show, which was that they planted a pre-Columbian Mayan, they say Mayan on the show,
Yeah.
idol on Mars to substantiate the claim that ancient aliens visited the Mayan civilization and gave them their technology.
Wasn't it also too like they planted it there like a year before and waited for the survey crew to find it or something?
It just makes it even better.
They smuggled it to Mars a while ago and planted it there and waited for it to be. At least that's what I thought it was.
Yeah, just not a solid plan. Both from
It was working though.
true, maybe it's more solid than I'm making it out to be.
It was working. Susan, what's her name, was sold on this.
Yeah, because we skipped a lot of the scenes with Susan Caxton. She, as we mentioned, was a reporter, and she was actually there to interview, I think, Philpott about like his take on the Mayans actually being ancient aliens from Mars.
Wonder if his name's Philpott because he's a crackpot.
Maybe. But no, the ancient aliens, weird hair guy is not having his day yet. 2027 is not his year.
Unfortunately. Oh no. Oh no, I'm devastated.
So, we get another scene with all the Star Cops minus Theroux. And they're all sort of upset that Nathan. They're upset that Nathan faked his death and didn't tell them. Kenzie more so than anyone. And remember, this was supposed to be Theroux, so Theroux more so than anyone.
Nathan says some witty line that I remember being super underwhelming as the final line of the series, but I didn't write it down.
It was something along the lines of, can't fool your enemies if you don't first fool your friends.
What a jokester.
No, we end on like, so, anyone for Mars or something?
That's it. Yeah, that was the exact line.
I wonder, so Big Finish has done some Star Cops audios. So I'm guessing, in the inevitable Follow up to this, they just go to like the moon base vending machine and get Mars bars for everyone.
What?
Anyone from Mars?
What?
Yep, and that's that. That is Star Cops.
Yeah, that's it. It's over. It's over. Went out not with a bang, but with a whimper. Started with a bang.
Did start with a bang. And it really kept that bang going.
Guess we could talk a little bit like retrospectively here.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the end of our first season of Inevitable.
Yes.
So,
Just like the show, we are also going out with a whimper instead of a bang.
yeah, fitting. So we don't have much planned for this. We kind of want to discuss favorite and least favorite characters and episodes. And then just kind of maybe discuss one or two things that we thought of the season overall. And this ending sort of segment might evolve as we do further seasons of this podcast, but this is what we have for now.
Right.
So yeah, let's just start with favorite and least favorite characters. You want to just go first?
David was my favorite. Anna Shun was my least favorite. I don't think that surprises anyone.
No, I don't think that surprises anyone. It doesn't surprise me, at least. I would say David is also my favorite. He had a lot of potential. He had the most backstory, and he was the most interesting. Right. He also had like the thing going for him of where he was like the cop with the heart of gold, the cop who was not from a cop background.
Right.
And he was, you don't see too many people like this in TV and movies. In fact, it's actually a lot more rare than you think, but he was like a true friend to Nathan.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd probably say my least favorite character is Divas. Not because I dislike his character, although there are certain aspects of his character that I would dislike in a real human being, but because he was the most inconsistent character, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, my least favorite is Anna because I just felt like she was an unnecessary addition to the crew. And I think that's evidenced by the fact that Chris Boucher just had no idea what to do with her when he got to this episode. And he was like, well, what even is her purpose?
Yeah, I like her sort of arc in A Double Life. I thought that was really good, but after that, she's pretty much done. She's just there.
Right. But she was really just John Colley's character. Like, maybe she should have just been restricted to his episodes, and maybe she should have left, like, last week. I don't know.
Maybe. She essentially wasn't a major part of this, so... And again, I assume in the novelization of this episode, she's even less present.
Right.
Yeah, so let's move on to favorite and least favorite episodes. I guess I'll take this one first. Yeah, so my favorite episode is... I'm blanking on the name.
Which one? What episode number?
2 episodes ago. 7? Episode 7?
A Double Life.
Yeah, my favorite episode is A Double Life. I think for reasons we touched on there. I like the crime. I like how it maintained my interest, or I liked how it sustained my interest past the point where the crime was revealed. And I think that's on the strength of like the characters.
Right.
Again, it had that little arc for Anna, had a lot of good stuff between Nathan and Kenzie as well. And Theroux was actually in it.
Wow. Yeah, my favorite is... what was episode 2? Conversations with the Dead.
Yeah, another good choice.
I just really liked the way that the whole thing tied together. Like, there were these little plot threads throughout the whole episode that all got tied together at the end, and tied together really well. And also, I liked how the ending just felt very satisfying compared to maybe some of the other endings for Star Cops, where it may have been a little unsatisfying. The way they resolve the crime or the actual resolution itself.
Yeah, that was an interesting resolution because they were given this sort of ultimatum of like, you either go into the American ship and do our bidding, or you just let this guy get away with it and look even worse than, the predecessors who came before you as the Star Cops. But then we get in like a rare instance, not a rare instance, but like Nathan sort of does his own thing there.
Yeah. And that was the first kind of real time where it was like, oh shoot, Nathan's going to be like rogue canon almost. That wasn't something that was super played up in some of the later episodes. It was like last week when Kenzie was like, "You never talk to anyone and tell anyone your plans," and it was kind of briefly touched upon, but that was like the one big instance of Nathan being a kind of cop who plays by his own rules.
Yeah, and I remember when Nathan was interrogating Richard Ho in the sauna, I was like, oh shoot, like it's coming back where Nathan is actually this quote unquote bad cop.
Right.
But then again, sort of just fizzled out.
Right.
Yeah, so I'd say my least favorite was
Which
whatever
one?
we watched last week. Again,
Other
I'm
People's
blanking on the
Secrets.
name. Yeah, Other People's Secrets.
Mine too. Yeah, mine too.
It was just
I think it was
boring.
just like the crime wasn't super interesting. The characters were like weird because it was character driven, but then like Divas was a sex addict and like Kenzie was super anti psychiatrist and it like didn't feel like it made a lot of sense because we didn't really get an explanation for it. We never really found out like why Kenzie was so like this basically.
No, and of course, season 2 has never happened, so we don't get that. Maybe our lords at Big Finish, or lords and masters, uh, have supplied more information about these characters.
Perhaps, but still, that information that they supply may not necessarily be like Chris Boucher's original conception or idea.
No, which doesn't make it bad.
Doesn't make it bad, but makes it different.
I would say that I actually preferred the John Colley written episodes to the Chris Boucher ones, to be honest.
Except for Other People's Secrets.
Well, I liked that in the John Colley written episodes, the characters were at each other's throats less, and they were like less of that typical Chris Boucher, like very mean spirited person.
Mm-hmm.
Which maybe if they had gone with the whole like Nathan's a bad cop type thing, without sort of backing off on that, maybe the Chris Boucher episodes would have held up better. But as it stands, I think I like the more lighthearted interactions that they all have in the John Colley episodes.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it helps bring a little bit of lightheartedness to the kind of gravity, because the crimes are they're pretty dark.
Yeah, they are.
And it's murder and smuggling and drugs and
right. Even Other People's Secrets, I would actually point to as having the darkest crime in the show, where it's like this guy trying to kill people because he's just bored and lonely.
Yeah. Well, was he trying to kill them though? That wasn't clear.
He was at least trying to mess things up for people.
Yeah. 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 No, definitely. Just looking back at the season as a whole, I do think it was pretty good. I think it aged very well. On the whole, I went into it expecting something that didn't age very well because when was the last time you heard about Star Cops of all things?
And that's also always the question of hey, this thing was made in the 80s and it's portraying what is soon to be our world. How accurate is it going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't if it's inaccurate, it's not a problem, but it's just interesting to kind of see.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how close so far they were from being accurate. And
It seemed pretty close. They didn't really take too many liberties, though.
It did seem pretty close. Did you notice that line in this episode where Kenzie basically insinuated that Alex Kravchenko was a Soviet spy and was showing preferential treatment to Russians on moon base?
No, I completely missed that.
When he was driving her out to the derelict spaceship, she's like, "You've been treating your kind better," or something like that. And I was like, "Whoa, hello!"
Wow. One thing I will say about this season overall and Star Cops as a whole is that for a show that is pretty near future and doesn't have too many out there sci-fi elements, and is pretty hard sci-fi, I actually liked it a lot. I tend to prefer the wackier, wilder stuff, but I really liked this show. Save for these last 2 episodes, I think this was a really good season.
Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Normally I'm okay with shows ending, but I would actually say I wish Star Cops had more seasons.
Yeah, I wish Star Cops had continued for at least another season, just so that we could get a little more background on the characters. Why is Kenzie so, why is she so quick to anger? What was David as a student? What was he protesting as a student radical? Maybe we could learn more about Davis's military history that was just casually dropped into other people's secrets.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of stuff we could have still learned that I'm bummed we didn't get, Box 2. Like, what's up with Box?
Yeah, so we did get sort of some of the backstory on Nathan's dad, but, like, we still don't really know, like, what Box was. And
Right.
I don't know, maybe this was just me, but I got the feeling that Box was part of some, like, sinister project.
Might have been.
But I don't know if other people have that interpretation.
It was definitely part of some sort of top secret project
Yeah.
of some description. Very interesting. Very sad. We didn't get any more.
Yeah.
We've always got our Lord and Savior's big finish.
Hopefully they follow through. I don't know if I'm going to be listening to any Star Cops audios, and we're definitely moving on from Star Cops
Right.
for this podcast, but, maybe there's some good stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're fairly new, too, so the Star Cops audios, I think, started coming out in 2018.
Yeah, like within the past year, I think.
Yeah, so just for those of you out there who only interact with new stuff, which is a thing that I never really understood, but some people are like, yeah, it's old, I don't want to watch it. It's a thing I've heard a lot. I don't really get it, or I don't really subscribe to it, but it's an opinion that a lot of people seem to have.
Well, to them I say you should watch Blake 7.
To them, I say you should watch Star Cops.
Watch both.
Yeah,
Watch both. Why not watch both?
at the same time.
Don't
So what
do
would
that.
that be like?
Don't do
How
that.
many you put like 3.5 episodes of Blake 7 on at once, and then you'd put one episode
Don't
of
do
Star
that.
Cops?
Don't do that. How would you watch
Or no, you would put more than
half?
five. No, it would be like
It'd be like 4.5.
6, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
But yeah, I'm out of things to say.
Yeah, I'm actually out of things to say as well. Not a lot to say about a 9-episode series except what we've said, basically.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah,
how
so-
many of Britain's 10 actors are in this?
Well, we have Roy Holder playing Daniel Larwood, and he's been in a pretty extensive career, or he has had a pretty extensive career. He's been in a bunch of stuff that I don't recognize, but he's been in he played Krelper in the Caves of Androzani on Doctor Who,
Wow.
and then he was in the typical stuff: Coronation Street, The Bill, Doctors, EastEnders. And then we also have Nigel Hughes playing Andrew Philpott, who has been, according to my notes, in pretty much nothing. And then we have Lachelle, I don't know, spelled Lachelle, Carl, playing Susan Caxton. She's been in 51 roles, unfortunately, because she's not the best at acting. She was actually, she must be a main character in Bob the Builder because she's been in a lot of Bob the Builder stuff. And she played a character called Trinity Wells in Torchwood and Doctor Who I think is a main character in Torchwood.
Yes, I believe so. From what I remember looking up about Torchwood back in the day, yes. I think so.
Yeah.
We'll know eventually.
When we watch Torchwood.
Yeah, and that's our final. How many of Britain's 10 actors are in this?
For this season.
Yeah, I was going to say the segment will return for Children
For
of
like
the Stones.
one episode.
The segment will return. Briefly. Next
Because all the
week.
characters in Children of the Stones are introduced in episode 1.
Gonna have to figure out something to do about that. But we do have some comments that we want to read. These we were recording, obviously, after we finished watching the show, after we finished recording. So we have a comment from RC. This one's on episode 2. I feel obligated to point out that the Sherlock Holmes quote appears first in the Sign of Four. Quote, how often have I said to you that when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth? And also in the Beryl Coronet, it is an old maxim of mine that when you have excluded the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. The quote from the Blanched Soldier appears much later in Conan Doyle's stories than the previous 2 examples. That process, said I, starts upon the supposition that when you have eliminated all which is impossible, then whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. And I think that's referencing the fact that when Keon or I said the quote in the episode, I said something like I wasn't sure if that actually appeared in the book, that it might be like the elementary My Dear Watson, which only appeared in in the movie. So I take full responsibility for that error
Well,
because
I think it's actually a response to my episode notes where I think I might have put down the wrong story or something.
well I know in I know
I don't remember actually.
well I know that in the
Yeah, in the episode we discuss it.
I said it incorrectly, and then I think you corrected it in the show notes. And I think this comment is saying that the quote that you used, which is from the Blanche Soldier, is not the first time that the quote appears.
Yeah, I think that's
first
what's going.
appears in the Sign
I
of
think
4.
that's what's going
so I think
on
that's how this is going down. But thank you, RC, for reaching out. We appreciate it, contributing to the sum total of human knowledge there. And then we have David on episode 8. He condensed all his comments this week into one longer comment, which is basically what I do when I read them anyway, so buckle up. This isn't a great episode, but I think it is better than this case to be open in a million years. One thing that has bothered me about this episode is Kenzie and Divas being on leave, coming back to the moon via the Earth-Moon shuttle. Pal gives Anna a present, and something is said about the European space station that apparently Kenzie had visited. It seems the station has a duty-free shop, but they were on leave on Earth. Did Kenzie just happen to catch a shuttle to the station while she was on leave on Earth? I get the feeling that John Colley didn't do any research for this episode regarding shrinks, or at least it didn't appear that way. Well, not unless he was going for a useless shrink vibe or approach. In regards to the lyrics, you are welcome. I used to own the 7-inch single of the theme music, and the lyrics I posted were off the top of my head. I have watched the series so much and often I know them virtually by heart. Maybe I have too much time on my hands. In regards to V, I only watched the first episode of the 1985 series when ITV screened it. Sadly, the first episode screened during school holidays, and seeing how ITV was screening these episodes at nearly 11 p.m. Mondays, I didn't get to see the rest of the series as I had school the next day, and we had no VCR at the time. I still haven't seen the series, but from what I hear, the series wasn't that great. I did catch the V reboot from 10 years ago and found it to be very slow and cheap with CGI sets that you can clearly tell are just CGI backgrounds. Anna, or rather the actress playing her, would be a good choice for Serverland if the Blake 7 reboot ever happens. Some people actually did put that actress as Serverland in our fantasy Blake 7 back on Zenith, fun fact. Little Green Men and Other Martians. This episode was always meant to be the series closer, but it was originally meant to be episode 10 as episode 9 proper got cancelled due to a strike at the time. Episode 9 was going to be titled Death on the Moon or Murder on the Moon. I've heard both, and was supposed to be a bit like Cluedo, or as you Americans know it, Clue. Brian Lincoln was supposed to make a reappearance in this episode. Series 2, if it had been made, was going to be set on both the Moon and Mars. I don't know if this would have worked, as there's no video link between Earth and Mars. There'd be a time delay between the Earth and Moon and Mars of about 5 to 20 minutes anyway. It wasn't meant to be. BBC in the late 1980s didn't like sci-fi, or at least didn't like spending money making them. After 1989, the only British-made sci-fi on the BBC was Red Dwarf and the occasional Doctor Who repeat, usually on BBC Two. Thanks for the podcast and the trip down memory lane.
Yeah, thanks for
reaching out.
Again.
I think I'm going to go through, because I have a couple things I want to comment on quickly. I think I'm going to go through the comment reverse order. I did hear that about Series 2. After finishing the podcast, I was looking up the show because I was curious to know where Big Finish got the idea to do a box set on Mars. And yeah, I did read that Chris Boucher apparently said like season 2 he wanted to be set on Mars, which is probably why Nathan was heading to Mars at the end of this episode. If this was going to be the season closer, it was probably going to set up the Star Cops base on Mars next season.
Right, and as we mentioned last week, Big Finish, the heroes we need but don't deserve, have swept in and have started releasing Star Cops audios, kind of riffing off that second season, or at least the ideas behind it.
That audio called Star Cops Mars actually like just released, I think, in the past week, funnily enough.
Huh.
I am like actually kind of curious to listen to it. Maybe I will one day. And I think we did mention once that there was going to be like an Agatha Christie style mystery for the episode that got canceled, because I had heard that as well. I hadn't heard the names Death on the Moon or Murder on the Moon. In regards to V, I do remember the like CG sets being very obviously CG in the reboot, because I did watch it with my dad because he really liked the original V. So, and yeah, I really don't think John Colley did any research last week for shrinks. Like I mentioned multiple times, she's called a psychiatrist, but then she like does therapy sessions, which I mean, you can have both. It's not like mutually exclusive. It's just like seems like an easy error that was made. I don't know.
An easy to like fix error, you mean?
Yeah,
like an easy to avoid
like
error.
All you would have to do is change the word psychiatrist to psychologist, and then like that error is fixed. Like,
Well, it was a pre-Google world,
Yeah, it's
but
true.
it's not as if information
Yeah, I was
was
gonna say it's not like they didn't have
not there.
encyclopedias, right?
Yeah.
It's not like they didn't have,
It was
and
just
it's not like
harder.
Chris Boucher didn't have a research team on the show who he couldn't send down to the London Public Library to look this up,
It was
right?
just harder. Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's no, it was just harder. There's no
Yeah. It's not
excuse.
an excuse, but I just want to point out that like it's so much easier now.
It's true. It's true. Um, yeah, no, thank you for reaching out, David. Your comments have been. I've been looking forward to hear your thoughts on the show every week since you've been watching it. You've watched it so many times, so it's always interesting to hear from someone who's seen the show multiple times and can pick up on things that we obviously didn't because this is the first time we've watched it.
Right.
Hoping you'll stick around to for some of the
Yeah.
other shows we're watching. I don't know if they have your interest. If you want to be on an episode, send us an email. Yes, that's a good segue into closing this off and what's coming next for Inevitable, since this is a seasonal podcast.
Yeah. So it's seasonal, but we are going to be back if you're listening to this in real time next week with season 2.
Right.
We're going to be starting Children of the Stone, so that's a 7-week endeavor for us.
Yeah, we're doing these 2 very short shows, back-to-back seasons, and after Children of the Stones, we'll see what's coming.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be taking a little bit of a break after Children of the Stones, but we're going to be also announcing what we're going to be doing after that.
At the end
within
of
the
that,
next, yeah, within
at the
the
end of
next
that season.
season.
So if you're listening real time, prep up your Children of the Stones. Get ready, episode 1. And if you would like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters. For the final time, your thoughts on Star Cops. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify at Inevitable, a classic sci-fi podcast. Be sure to leave a rating if you liked the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor, like us on Facebook. Also check us on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And like we mentioned, next time we're going to be starting Children of the Stones. But until then, the end.